people, I know you can relate. At the end of 2024 and the start of 2025, I done bought so many new Barbies, I have no choice but to start living on a budget up in here. I'm gonna need to watch some tutorials with tips for paying off credit card debt fast. I need to hire me a financial advisor. I might need to invest in some kind of insurance. You know what I'm saying? Do they have that for doll collectors? Something happens to my collection, I could get me a big payout or something, you know what I mean? Cause my credit score is like 750 with a minus sign in the front. I'm not sure that I qualify for any loans. Like, can I get an auto loan and not buy a car with that? Can I get some student loans? Cause I could read at like a 7th grade level-ish, sort of. Hook me up, FAFSA. I mean, if I had me a mortgage or something real grown up sounding like that, I could try refinancing something, but I ain't got nothing like that, so I'm just stuck now. Mattel trying to make me go broke up in here. Like, I'm just gonna keep blaming Mattel for having the nerve to drop all these bombshell dolls on us with no rest, back to back to back to back, charging 2 arms and 2 legs for every new doll they release. What is your explanation for this, Mattel? Expliquez s'il vous plaît. I'll wait. Just why? I mean, you might be saying, Gypsy, you're a grown-ass woman. You need to exert some self-control. Okay, Judgy McJudgy. Self-control, whatever that means. Mattel know damn well I ain't got that. I'm an entitled millennial. We don't stress ourselves with accountability, responsibility, whatever. What do I look like? A Gen Xer? A boomer? Come on now. Self-control is played out. Since I'm half broke though, I do not have the luxury of shopping for premium Saran high quality Barbie doll hair. Plus, I'm impatient and I don't want to wait for packages in the mail. So I decided I'm just gonna root my newest dolls with some hair that I had laying around the house. This is the You Create Barbie Basics KIT #1 face sculpt fill in the blank. She might be Reed, maybe she's Cheryl, she could even be Lizette. We don't know. Everybody out here just taking wild guesses until Mattel finally officially releases some type of confirmation on what faces go with what sculpt names. In the meantime, I'm just calling her Pinklet. She has a beautiful sculpt and head shape that fully deserves a head of luxurious hair, so I decided I will give her some. Now, let's get into my lazy process for rooting. I started with the same thing I did for my other doll in this collection with the red lips. I made a mock-up of how I envisioned for this doll to look with straight hair and some bangs. So I gave her a hairline with pencil so that I could erase and fix any mistakes, which I didn't make because I'm very perfect and I never make any mistakes. Then I filled in the hairline with acrylic paint in a similar color to the hair that I was going to use. Although I tend to use recycled doll hair from reject heads when I do my rootings, for this girl I decided to go with braiding hair that's made for human beings. I had some 14-inch hair laying around, so I cut it in half and I started rooting just the perimeter of her hair. The reason I use reject heads for sourcing my doll hair is because I don't do this often enough to actually purchase a stock of rooting hair for the dolls, so it's just cheaper to do it like this. And why let good hair go to waste just because I don't like the face, you know? Now this particular hair, I like the blending of the colors, which has like an ombre effect at the ends. It's like a dark brown and a light brown mixed together. Unlike the first doll that I did this with, I didn't place holes all around the scalp of the doll's head first. Some of you might be wondering if this process is easier or harder with the pre-made holes. So this is really going to depend on which rooting technique that you like to use. Due to my impatience and aversion to preciseness, I chose to do the poking method where you just punch the hair into the head with a rooting tool, which is the same kind of tool that we use when we do reborn doll heads. There are many YouTube tutorials that are available on how you can make your own rooting tool like this at home. It's very easy to do, so you don't have to go looking all over the place and like buying tools like this because they're very expensive compared to the ones you can just make yourself. I chose to use 2 different needle sizes. I use a smaller one for just the front row of hair at the hairline right above her forehead, and then for the rest of her head I'm using a bigger needle so that I can root bigger plugs into the head and move things along faster. As I was rooting, I did end up painting her head a darker shade because I realized that the hair is much darker than the paint that I used at first when I filled in her scalp. But this by no means indicates that I had made a mistake, okay? I just changed my mind about the color that I wanted to use for that scalp because I'm perfect. I know many of you don't believe in directional rooting, but I promise you, boo, it is a thing. I had to root her hair in the front of her head laying over her face because I knew this part was going to end up becoming bangs. Then I placed the other plugs according to the guidelines that I had made on her scalp when I had first filled it in with the brown paint. So she was going to have a middle part that would start just behind her bangs. I poked holes into the head while I was inserting the hair plugs. This eliminated the daunting task of pre-making holes. It's completely unnecessary. The Barbie's head is very soft, so you don't really need the pre-made holes. You don't need to heat the head first either. You just poke away. Even if you don't use such precision like I did, making sure that the hair plugs are all going in a certain pattern. With a style like this, you can pretty much put the plugs randomly and get decent results. The most important part to focus on though is the front and the top of the head, which is the most visible. You want to make sure that that part is really full. After I filled her head with hair, I needed to set the hair with heat. I chose to start with boiled water. I placed a rubber band over her hair, laying the hair in the direction that I wanted it to sit on her head, including her bangs, of course. I parted that part and then I braided it in the front to separate it from the rest of the hair, but you do not need to braid the bangs first. I'm just extra like that, so that's what I did. Then I dunked her head in some hot water. I also poured hot water over the head and I let the head just sit in the water for a few minutes. Upon removing the doll's head from the heat, I waited for it to dry off. Now with this fiber of braiding hair, which I think could be Kanekalon, but I honestly don't really know, I could use a flat iron on this hair without wetting it. So I parted the hair and then I went over all the strands with a flat iron on low heat. The great thing about this hair is that I don't have to straighten it like this. With just boiled water, I can get a kinky straight texture that resembles relaxed coarse hair in humans, and that's very pretty too. It almost looks like tiny crimped hair, but because I was already going to use the heat tool for her bangs and make them super straight, I just finished off the rest of her hair with the heat tool. And when you go over it with the flat iron, it kind of flattens out those little ripples, so you lose that crimped kind of texture. To experiment, I did try curling the hair with the heat tool too. It did work, but the curls were very easily brushed out and it just left flares at the ends of her hair. So it wasn't a permanent solution if you want to add curls to this kind of hair. Once I got the hair in the right position, it was time to cut down her bangs. I started very long, giving her bangs that actually cover her eyebrows and almost the top of her eyes. But this way, once it's completely dry and it starts to float up a little bit, I can decide how much shorter I want the hair to be. I don't like for my dolls to have really short bangs. I don't want to see too much of the eyebrows. So it's likely that her finished look is going to consist of a microscopic trimming of her bangs. But for now, I'm just fine with how it turned out until I figure out how much more I want to cut off. Her hair texture is really soft. The hair is full in density and I can do pretty much whatever other kind of styles I want to do with this hair. I can do updos. I can even braid this hair. If you want to give her a nice wavy texture, you can try braiding the hair and then setting it in hot water. You just dunk the braids inside the hot water. Then when it's dry, remove the braids and this is how you can get nice waves. But I don't want to do that with this doll. I like the sleek texture, so she's just gonna stay like this. Now, I also don't know if I want to trim her hair more because I love the ombre color at the ends of her hair and I don't want to lose that. So she probably will just have this super long hair for now. With the last doll in this kit, the side glancing lady, she's my favorite of all three and I saved her for last, but I didn't realize as I was working on her how difficult it is to make her hairline because her head shape and forehead are so different than the other girls. I had to erase it multiple times and start over again. But also, I can't really make up my mind about what hairstyle I want to give her. I did do a little mock-up for her too, but her face just looks like she could get away with so many different hairstyles. I can't make up my mind right now. But since she's next on my list, in case anybody else is facing the same issues or struggling with their rooting process in general, I decided I'm gonna film more of the actual rooting process for this doll. So when I show you guys her updated hair look in a separate video, video, expect to see all those extra details there. Overall, for me, I would not say that rooting a completely bald doll is significantly harder than a pre-rooted doll with holes already in the head. The freedom of choosing the hairline might be nice for some creative rooters, but it could be a bit stressful if you have no clue how to make a hairline. That's probably the hardest thing, but it's more hard like in your head than it is in actual execution, if that makes sense. You can just use your other dolls in your collection or pictures of dolls from Google to help you map out the hairline. Just make sure you're using a pencil while you're drawing it on so you can erase it if you make mistakes. And you will make mistakes because you're not me. You're not perfect, but that's okay. This is how we learn, pretty people. If you found this video helpful, let me get a thumbs up. It helps YouTube push the video out to other people who might be looking for something like this to watch. If you're interested in purchasing any of the dolls from the new Basics line who come in black clothing and already have rooted hair, because you might not be wanting to be bothered with all this rooting and wigging nonsense, you can purchase the first 5 models in this series designed by our beloved Bill Greening if you follow the product links in or around the info bar below. Your purchases allow me to earn a small commission, which goes a very long way to support this channel without it costing you guys anything extra. If you want to check out my very sophisticated professional opinions on Mattel's genius decision to let go of the very mediocre designer Bill Greening, you probably never heard of him, you can just click on the video links below and have yourself a little chuckle while we discuss the matter like very mature adults. I'm Gypsy, your host on Broken Dolly TV, and despite not being perfect like me, I want you to always have a dolly day.